I have few regrets in life. And one of them, however, is that I never got to play with Randy.
I don't know if it sheds enough light on everything that he went through.
You know, I fell for what I saw in those eyes, you know, the first time that we met.
He was the loudest drummer I think I've ever played with.
I snatched him right away.
But what does this guy do?
Randy always knew he was on a journey to the top. He had a dream. He had a vision, like a light at the end of the tunnel that he had to chase.
Randy Castillo's personality is really the story. Randy was this it's impossible to ignore the fact that some shade of Randy's spirit has watched over our journey as filmmakers, no matter what your belief system is. Randy was this interesting looking Native American guy that for some reason you noticed.
Randy had this vibe that he gave off from across the room, like a certain charisma.
You start talking to him and he's probably learning a lot more about you than you're learning about him, and you think, what a nice guy. You're still just hanging out with this guy who's a major rock star, but he's still just a guy, a regular guy. That's the Randy Castillo everybody loved and who I came to love and admire through the process of making this film. That's the person we lost when Randy Castillo died. And that's an important story to keep alive.
I said, well, you're a drummer. Who do you play drums for? He says, well, I play for Ozzy Osbourne. I go, you do? Really? And he goes, yeah, you know, the drummer for Ozzy Osbourne. I went, interesting.
When Mike Bell, the film's producer, was a kid, he sneaked into a bar underage to watch Randy play back in the 80s, and they became friends. As soon as Randy passed in 2002, Mike started making the picture, jumped in with both feet and started interviewing Randy's rock star friends when they came within driving distance of his home in Oklahoma City. These incredibly successful music industry people loved Randy Castillo and wanted to see a story told in the truest possible way. But one big blank spot we had in the story for a long time was that Randy's mother, Margaret, didn't want to be interviewed. She also didn't want to release any photos or footage of Randy taken after he had cancer. And we weren't going to push that. And Randy's sister, Chris, who worked very hard with us on the film, wasn't going to go against her mother's wishes. So we waited until Mrs. Castillo was ready, which happened a couple of years ago.
We sort of come from a musical family background because my husband was also a musician. And we always had music in the house, you know, all the time. All of a sudden, he just got this burning desire for the drums. Once he got his first set of drums, he started playing them in the garage without any lessons or anything. You know, he did it on his own until he started taking drum lessons. And there he went, you know.
After that interview, the film found its landing strip. We couldn't have constructed the same story without Mrs. Castillo's interview. She was beautiful, and she made it clear that the godfather of heavy metal drumming was also a good boy who loved his mother. Lita Ford made the film. She made the film real. She and I had several extended conversations about Randy and the shape of the story and the tone of the writing, and she reflected on this close friend she had lost. Her fingerprints were all over the script by the time it was finalized. I couldn't have written a narrative that told the story of Randy had Lita Ford not been involved. Kip Winger calls Randy Castillo the godfather of heavy metal drumming. Stevie Salas calls him the consummate artist. He had a rare combination of precision and power and made every musician he played with perform better. And to this day, a lot of the people who knew Randy in life believe he is still acting in their lives from the other side. As we worked on the picture, I heard more than one person say, "This is Randy doing this," when something fell together in the right way, or "Randy's watching over this." This man lived, and his life set waves into motion that are still traveling through generations. And through it all, the great man remained a good man. What more can you ask for out of a life?
I think it's a great movie. Everybody should see it. Anybody that loves music and wants to see somebody with a great spirit.
Great, fantastic job. It brought tears, it brought happiness. I mean, it makes you really miss the guy and shows what kind of artist he was.
It was excellent. Are you kidding? Randy's just exactly like they described it.
I liked the way they presented everything and told stories, and it made you feel like you got to know him as a person a little bit better through those who loved him and knew him.
Like, I brought a tear to my eye.
It was good. The movie was great, but it was sad.
I absolutely loved it.
I thought it was amazing. Randy was an amazing guy, and it was just phenomenal to see him again on the big screen.
It tells the story of a kid that did well out of New Mexico. Well, you know, really did well.
I want to be a rock star, you know? I have few regrets in life. And one of them, however, is that I never got to play with Randy.
He is the first rock and roll Apache drummer that was successful, the first one ever to make it in rock and roll.
Nicest guy in the world.
His clinics were geared toward the kid. He wanted them to believe that just because they're from Albuquerque and just because they're Hispanic or just because they're not the typical, you know, rock star persona that they could do that.
Randy would have been the first person I would have got if he wasn't touring around with Ozzy, you know.
I'm going to show you some of my stuff.
You know, all the stuff about Randy being a great guy and a great drummer and all that kind of stuff, I don't know if it sheds enough light on everything that he went through when he got sick.
And I've got cancer.
It was horrible. It's, you know, my friend was this guy who was larger than life. He was absolutely fearless and indestructible. It just started fading away right in front of you.
I never thought you could, you could kick Randy down, man. It just didn't seem like the kind of guy I was gonna go ever.
But when you have so much of this like rock star, Hollywood, you know, over the top life for so many years, it's almost like, you know, refreshing to have a pure, beautiful moment like that, and you just don't want to let go.
First time I ever set eyes on Randy Castillo, I could not believe the energy of this drummer. I'm watching him, and he couldn't take your eyes off Randy. It was just so charismatic. He sucked you in with his energy.
He was one of those players who would kick ass in the club. You know, he'd hold it down in all the rock bars, but then he could take it to the big stage and it wouldn't lose anything.
It was destined to be that that man was supposed to entertain an arena. He was just bigger than the room.
Aside from just the playing, there's definitely a certain showman quality that you have to bring and you have to deliver. It's not playing alone, so you got to have the confidence to deliver the goods. Randy brought that. He brought a certain athleticism to his drumming and also to his performance.
When he played, it was amazing. He would actually get out off his drums and go around his drum set on the outside and just hit anything. And you just saw a guy that just was doing what he really was meant to do on this planet.
Scared up out there.
I play a couple of these for Randy tonight. He's always here with us. We had a lot of fun with Randy on our bus. He liked to go with us, for sure. And I remember waking up, I was pretty hungover. We had rock and rolled all the way somewhere, and it was a long drive. And I came up, and I think people passed out the front lounge, and I saw a bag of popcorn, and I go, oh, I gotta eat something. You know, I was like dry in my mouth. Couple of gallons of water, and I saw these popcorns, and I just dug into them, and it was Randy's popcorn, and my head literally caught on fire because he had peppered them with some red. He was possessed by all these spices that he got from all kinds of places around the world, and he showed me whatever he peppered his popcorn with was some red. It's like a can with a skull on, and it was insanely hot. And I just had a couple of scoops of those popcorn before I caught on fire. I don't think I could taste anything for a good week after that. And Randy was laughing his ass off when he saw it. He go, oh my God, you ate that? And I go, yeah, I fucking did. My tongue swelled up, and I mean, I never felt anything like it in my entire life. Neither before or after, you know, and I have no problem with spicy food, but this was, he just loved the spices too much, you know, he was pretty nuts.
Welcome everyone to Discover This. Well, today we got a story from Albuquerque, New Mexico about rock and roll drummer Randy Castillo and his life and the bands he was in, some of which you'll recognize, the music he played on, some of which you probably played air guitar to or sung along to. So we're right alongside I-25 here in Albuquerque, and we're going to tell the story of Randy Castillo.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Randolfo Francisco Castillo was born December 18, 1950 in Albuquerque, New Mexico. His mother was Spanish, French, and Native American, and his father was Native American and Hispanic. Randy wanted to play the drums after seeing the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, which many musicians wanted to start a band or play an instrument after seeing the Beatles on Ed Sullivan. He did play trumpet for a short time, but realized drums were his passion. In high school, West Mesa High School in Albuquerque, he played in a jazz band, the orchestra, and the marching band. He joined some Albuquerque bands, the Gremlins from roughly 1963 to 64, then the Purple Blues from 1964 to 66. Then at 18 he played in a band called the Tabs from around 1968 to 1969. Around 1970 he joined the Mud, who later changed the spelling to 2 Ds to avoid confusion with another band called the Mud. The Mud, with 2 Ds, recorded 2 albums. After that, he joined the Wombleys, another local Albuquerque band that was making a name for themselves. It was a cover band playing Zeppelin, Yes, Black Sabbath, stuff like that. They played all over Albuquerque, but they also toured the U.S. The band ended up moving from Albuquerque to Denver, Colorado, where they broke up in 1980. Randy then joined the Offenders in 1980, and they recorded 1 album before Randy realized he needed to move to Los Angeles to make it to the big time. Randy got a gig playing drums for the Motels on their tour opening for the Cars, a big arena tour. Randy spent 1982 playing for a Chicago-based band called USSA. In 1984, Randy recorded with a band called Stone Fury. Then Randy was hired to play drums for Lita Ford, and he drummed on her Dancing on the Edge album and tour. That tour took them all over the U.S. and the world. After that tour, Randy got a call from a guy Lita Ford had introduced him to, a guy by the name of Tommy Lee, the drummer for Motley Crue. Tommy Lee told Randy that Ozzy Osbourne was looking for a drummer and he should go check that out. Randy ended up getting hired by Ozzy and was with Ozzy for about 10 years. He recorded the Ultimate Sin album, the No Rest for the Wicked album, the Just Say Ozzy album, and the live album Live and Loud. There was also about 10 years worth of touring with Ozzy. After recording Ozzy's live album in 1993, Randy joined the band Bone Angels, which didn't last too long before they broke up. He then went on to Red Square Black in 1994, another short-lived adventure. He was back with Ozzy in 1995 for a tour. Then he also recorded some tribute albums. He did all the drumming on Leopard Mania, a tribute album to Def Leppard, and he also recorded with Ronnie James Dio on a cover of Alice Cooper's Welcome to My Nightmare for an Alice Cooper tribute album. In 1999, Tommy Lee had left Motley Crue, and Sharon Osbourne called Randy and told him to go check that out, and he ended up getting the job without having to audition. See, Randy was friends with the band, and he had toured briefly as the drummer in Vince Neil's solo band. Randy recorded the New Tattoo album in 2000 with Motley Crue, and they were getting ready to tour with Anthrax and Megadeth. So a couple weeks before the tour was to start, Randy became ill after performing a club show with a mariachi band he would perform with from time to time. So he took a cab to the hospital. He collapsed in the waiting room. Doctors had found an ulcer had ruptured and performed emergency surgery that actually saved Randy's life. He had to back out of the Motley Crue tour to take some time off to recover, and during that time, Randy found a lump on his jaw that eventually grew to the size of a golf ball. Back to the doctors, who found it was a squamous cell carcinoma, usually treatable if found in time. The cancer went into remission, but returned within a few months, more aggressively. Randy Castillo died at his home in Los Angeles on March 26, 2002, from cancer. And after Randy Castillo passed away at his house in Los Angeles, he was brought home to Albuquerque, specifically here to Mount Calvary Cemetery. And Randy is interred in the Mount Calvary Mausoleum, Chapel Mausoleum, and he's interred alongside his mother. After his death, his high school renamed the Performing Arts Center after Randy Castillo.
He was best known for jamming out with the likes of Ozzy Osbourne and Motley Crue, but now one famous drummer and New Mexico native is getting honored by his old high school. According to the Albuquerque Journal, the West Mesa High School Performing Arts Center will be named after Randy Castillo. Castillo was 51 years old when he died from cancer in 2002. He was part of the first graduating class at West Mesa High School back in 1968 and launched his career playing with local bands. The official renaming ceremony is set for tomorrow.
There's also a great documentary made about Randy Castillo called The Life, Blood, and Rhythm of Randy Castillo. And you can check it out on different streaming services, or you could buy the DVD. But it's a really good documentary, real well put together. So that's going to do it, everyone, for this story on Randy Castillo, a great rock and roll drummer. A lot of history there, a lot of great music, taken way too soon from us. But I hope you enjoyed it. I appreciate you taking the time to watch, and we will see you next time on Discover This.
Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus, and welcome to another analysis video. On the agenda tonight, we have something a little bit different. I'm going to be looking at drummer Randy Castillo, and more specifically, I'm going to be looking at his documentary that's just come out. It came out yesterday, 12th of October on Amazon Prime, called The Life, Blood and Rhythm, Randy Castillo. I was contacted by the producer for this documentary, and it's been labelled the Rockumentary of 2018. So I thought I'd have a look. I'm not getting paid to do this or do a review or anything. I just had a little look at it and said that I'll do a video on it because Randy was such a legend on drums in the 80s. As I said, he was just on everything, Ozzy Osbourne and Motley Crue as well. But I'm going to just have little bits of the documentary that I'm going to play and just have a word about his drumming, but also about the documentary in general. But let's get this up on screen and let's get some little tasters of Randy's playing. And I don't want to go into it in too much depth on this video because you've got to watch the documentary. That can go into so much more detail than I can. But in terms of Randy's playing, he was one of those guys that absolutely not only focused on that solid playing, and like we see here, the little drum solos that you always have at Ozzy Osbourne gigs and all hard rock and metal gigs, there's always a little drum solo in there. But the fact that Randy's so solid, but he also brought to the table the showmanship, and certainly mentioned in the documentary is the fact that when a drummer is behind that wall of drums, it's very hard to stick out, but Randy absolutely did that. He was an absolute showman and just a fantastic guy as well. But what I love about this documentary is the fact that it isn't just one of those that's been thrown together from footage you've already seen and interviews with people, and you've probably already seen the interviews. There's so many big players here who are adding to the story of Randy. Not only is it going to give you a really great background on Randy's playing, interestingly, talking about that just reminded me of the fact that we have a little talk with Randy's first ever drum teacher, and his teacher actually said when he came to me, he wasn't the best, but he was so enthusiastic. He had a love for it, he had a drive for it. And that brings up an interesting point that I always mention about guitar players who really reach those technically high levels, and people think, oh, I can never play like that, and that player is so talented. I tend to always say to people that even the guys who are considered really talented, they will say it's 10% talent and 90% hard work. And for a drum teacher to say about Randy that he wasn't the best, but he had that drive, once you set your mind to it, you can achieve anything. And Randy is the absolutely shining example of that. The fact that he might not have been the most natural drummer in the world, but he absolutely worked away at it to then become one of the best in the world. And especially in rock and metal, one of the best drummers ever. I've just wound it forward here just to get a little bit more of Randy's drumming and how solid he is. A great thing to listen out for is the foot pedal. I always love listening out for foot pedals when drummers do their solos, but have a little listen to this.
And then landed on the ground, and the chains were taken off and it went back up. So visually that was just incredible.
Randy was a total influence. Prior to seeing him live with Ozzy, then I had already seen him on MTV with Lita Ford. And I remember just totally taking notice of him, going, well, you know, he's super visual, looked great when he's playing, you know, powerful sound.
He was the guy to watch, and he was the guy to beat, you know, and gave me
an absolute beast on those skins. And again, putting that showmanship side into it. This is what you'll find with all the top players pretty much over any instrument. When they've excelled on a particular instrument, so many players can get to a good technical level, but then it's how you then combine that with entertainment, with connecting with the crowd. I'm not going to get into the ins and outs of Randy's technique and all that kind of stuff on drums, because you've got to watch the documentary, because there are guys, real top players, who absolutely break it down and just tell you how good Randy was. And take their word for it, don't take my word for it, because I am fundamentally a guitarist, but I love listening to great drummers, and Randy was absolutely that beating heart, like I mentioned, in the 80s with Ozzy. And to a certain extent, people who listen to Ozzy might have felt that when Randy came along, it then actually took Ozzy to a whole new level. Just the lineup just got a boost when Randy got on those skins. But the way that the documentary's been put together really gives you a sense of not only the musical side of Randy and his ability, but also the personal side. We have lots of interview with family and just getting a vibe of what kind of guy he was. The fact he's such a great guy, just a nice guy. Nobody has a bad word to say about him, and would always be positive. He's just such a positive, outgoing guy, and one of those guys that I think a lot of people just gravitated towards because he was just a personality when he entered the room. The documentary is narrated by Lita Ford, who of course knew Randy very well, but we've got testimonies from players, guitar players, drummers, bassists, all from around that time that were in the same circles, that are just saying how great Randy was and how he added something to every track that he played on. Just really did level it up, took it to a totally different place with his style. and his intensity on the drums. But the documentary doesn't gloss over Randy's later years, the fact that when he had his first bout of illness, we have a lot of family interviews here, so you can actually get a personal understanding of what it was like for Randy and his family at the time to then come through that, but then to have to actually go through it again, and unfortunately it proved too much the second bout, and it really does move you. It is a real personal story. So we've got that half just a great musician and so much great playing and ability and just him as a person, but then you've also got that side of it that really does show the struggles and what an illness like cancer can do. Even myself, before I was born, I lost my grandmother to cancer, so I never got to meet her, and I think this documentary will hit a chord with a lot of people because everyone can relate to this. Everyone's been affected by cancer in their life at some point, if it isn't them personally, people they've known or friends, and it's just a really nasty illness. But the fact that Randy's so positive, and also the fact that this illness, it doesn't care who you are, what you've done, what your background is. Randy was just such a great guy, but as I said, it just doesn't care. And at the moment in the UK here, we have a Stand Up to Cancer campaign, which is actually happening at the moment. So it's a really great time to get the awareness out there. And if you can donate anything, just anything which will help in order to get more research into this and stop great people, fantastic people just being taken for absolutely no reason. In conclusion, this is a great documentary because the fact that it's been so long in production hasn't just been thrown together, and the fact that we get not only an appreciation of Randy's playing from a professional viewpoint of people that he played with and also people that were around at the time really at the top of their game, but also we get that personal story as well from friends and family that really touch on some serious topics. So it's really got everything, and it's really tastefully done. It pretty much doesn't matter what genre you're into, because Randy, you get to learn what he's like as a person, and you just get to appreciate his drive to succeed, and it's also a great personal story. So this is out on Amazon Prime now, so definitely check it out. It's worth your time. I'm not getting paid for this review. I'm just an 80s music lover, and I just wanted to do a review on this because Randy is the absolute foundation of so much of that 80s sound. He's absolutely fundamental to all those tracks that everybody loves. There's so many. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you've seen this documentary, just leave a comment. It'll be cool to know what you guys think of it. Thanks to the producers in the first place for approaching me about this and suggesting it. But if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Check out this documentary, and I'll see you guys at the next one. Rock!
Hey there everybody, Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. We've got a very special film review for you here today. This particular music documentary was actually first released in 2014. It's now being re-released digitally for the very, very first time by the folks at Freestyle Digital Media. This particular film, or documentary I should say, takes a very close look at the life and career of the late drummer Randy Castillo, who passed away from cancer in 2002. Now, many of you will remember Randy as being a very notable drummer for such acts as Ozzy Osbourne. He actually drummed for Ozzy for quite a number of years. He also played drums for Lita Ford, as well as for a couple of years with Motley Crue. So, very influential musician, drummer, as well as someone who is very, very well liked by his peers. This particular film, okay, again, The Life, the Blood, and the Rhythm of Randy Castillo, originally produced by Cinema One and 18 Lights Pictures, written and directed by Win Ponder, and produced by Michael Bell. Basically, the film's roughly about an hour and a half, maybe give or take a couple minutes there. And basically, it is like a kind of, almost like a love letter to the life of Randy Castillo as seen and discussed by his family and friends. So we've got, you know, his sisters and his mother who talk very, very lovingly about their fallen brother, his ex-girlfriend Christina, okay, who was with him in the final years of his life. And they were very, very happy, you know, together, and were planning a life together before he came down with cancer. But more importantly or not more importantly, but for the bulk of the film is based up on kind of interview segments and snippets from many, many of the fellow musicians that Randy either worked with or hung around with or became friends with. So, you know, folks that were in Ozzy's band, so Phil Sasson, okay, Zakk Wylde. You've got some commentary from Lemmy, okay, Lita Ford, who actually also narrates the entire film. Matt Sorum, ex of Guns N' Roses. Slash, okay, also from Guns N' Roses. Who else we got here? Bobby Blotzer, okay, Billy Sheehan, Nikki Sixx, Vince Neil, his band members in Motley Crue. Jerry Cantrell, Mike Inez from Alice in Chains, Stevie Salas, you know, a whole host of people. And if you only knew Randy through his drum work on the many albums he performed with some of the artists I mentioned before, this film will give you an insight into the kind of guy that he was, the kind of human being that he was, as you know, in music and out. So a lot of really just real heartfelt, loving memories and stories shared by a lot of these people. You know, whether they, you know, worked in management or in PR with Randy and the bands he was in, or whether it's, you know, people he toured alongside with, or musicians from other bands that were on the same bill that spent a lot of time with, and, you know, as well as his family, his sisters, his girlfriend, his mom. Very, very touching stuff. Gives you a little bit kind of behind the scenes look at who the man Randy Castillo was. Talking about, you know, his love for music, and kind of it gives you a nice retrospective of his musical career from the very, very first bands he was in all the way through to getting the gig with Ozzy and Motley Crue and Lita and various other projects that he worked on and with. But more importantly, you get a real sense for, again, who the man was behind the drum kit. So while many people in the world admired him for his drum skills, this whole community of people who knew him well admired him for the really good, nice human being that he actually was, which makes the whole story even all the more sad when, you know, he came down with this, you know, form of cancer that he basically kind of just put off for a while. He knew something was wrong, but and this is why, guys, it's no joke. You feel something's wrong with your body, especially as you get older. You know, he was only 51 when he died. You know, you get into your 40s and you start to feel something's not right, you got to go to the doctor. And it's one of the things that those close to him were imploring him to do, and he kept putting it off. And by the time that, you know, he was diagnosed, he was treated, but then it came back. And it's just really sad when you know, watch and listen to people who were close to the person who wound up passing away, as they kind of describe what the last few months of his life was. It's just really kind of heart-wrenching, especially when, you know, he had thought he beat the disease, and then it came back later on as he was starting to get his life back together. But he's left a very rich musical legacy for everybody to enjoy. And I think by the time the end of the film comes, you know, you get that from everybody. You know, first you get the sadness, and, you know, plenty of folks telling their story of Randy and breaking down crying in numerous cases here in this film. So it's even, you know, those of us who never knew Randy, but only knew him as a performer, you can't help but not get choked up a little bit just kind of watching and listening here. But, you know, towards the end, it's really kind of like a celebration of the life of Randy Castillo, and I think it was a job well done. So you've got interview snippets, you've got some, you know, live clips from various performances. Kind of interesting that Ozzy didn't really take part in this, which is the one thing I kind of walked away from, was really missing. But nonetheless, a very, very well-made film, which, like I said, now is available for you to purchase and stream digitally. I believe it's available on most of the regular streaming media services. So if you've never seen this film, I highly recommend it. It's, you know, it gives you a nice snapshot of kind of the 80s and 90s metal scene, but more importantly, a very in-depth look at you know, a great drummer who did a lot of really, really good things musically speaking, and touched a lot of people, which in the end, you know, you're not going to make a film on a musician's life unless they really touched people, whether from their musical skills or from a personal standpoint, or a combination of the two. So again, the life, the blood, and the rhythm of Randy Castillo, well worth seeking out for drummers and hard rock and metal fans alike. So this is Pete Pardo. Visit us on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Of course, we're here on the mighty YouTube as often as possible. So we will see you real soon with lots of other great content. Take care.
Welcome everyone. Join us today as we delve into the life and legacy of Randy Castillo, one of rock's most dynamic and influential drummers. From his early days with Ozzy Osbourne to his groundbreaking work with Motley Crue, his talent and passion left an indelible mark on the music world. So let's dive in. Randy Castillo, born Randolfo Francisco Castillo on December 18, 1950 in Albuquerque, New Mexico, United States of America. Born to parents Margaret, of Spanish, French, and Native American descent, and Frank, who was Native American and Hispanic. Growing up in a musically inclined family, he was one of 5 children. His sisters, Frances, Marilyn, Phyllis, and Christine, were all musicians, contributing to the rich, artistic environment that shaped his early life. Randy's first foray into music was at West Mesa High School in Albuquerque, where he played in the jazz band, orchestra, and marching band. He even composed a high school cadence that remains in use to this day. Initially a trumpet player, Randy soon discovered his true passion lay with the drums. His interest in drumming was particularly sparked after watching the Beatles perform on The Ed Sullivan Show in early February 1964. However, his father was reluctant to buy him a drum kit, believing Randy would lose interest just as he had with the trumpet. At 18, Randy began playing in a band called the Tabs, known for their mustard-colored Nehru jackets on stage. On June 18, 1970, exactly 3 months before Jimi Hendrix's death, Randy snuck into one of Hendrix's concerts and hid under the stage to get a better look. After leaving the Tabs, he joined band, The Mud, and began heavy drug use. The band's lead singer, Tommy G, eventually died of kidney failure, which Randy attributed to his heroin addiction. This tragedy led Randy to avoid using the drug again. In the late 70s, Randy joined his first rock band, the Womblies, originally named Cottonmouth. Moving to Espanola, they played covers of songs by Yes, Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, and Jethro Tull at numerous gigs, including high school proms. Touring America, Randy experienced life on the road, playing 4 45-minute sets per night in clubs and quickly becoming a drumming icon in each city. The band relocated to Denver, Colorado, but disbanded in 1980. The following year, Randy's father Frank passed away at age 51. In 1980, Randy recorded an LP with The Offenders, a band that included Randy Rand of Autograph and Glenn Scherber of Badfinger. In 1981, realizing the need to move to Los Angeles to pursue his dreams, Randy relocated with Albuquerque-bred guitarist Tim Pierce. They initially rented a rundown room at the Montecito on Franklin Avenue in Hollywood, but tired of the local scene, eventually moved out, and began living in his pickup truck. On the recommendation of singer-songwriter Michael Goodrow, a fellow Albuquerque musician and bassist for the Motels, Randy joined the pop band when their drummer fell ill with a heart condition just before a tour. He then embarked on his first major arena tour with the Motels, supporting the Cars. In 1982, Randy joined the Chicago-based band USSA, which included former Cheap Trick guitarist Pete Cometa, ex-Montrose vocalist Bob James, off-Broadway frontman Cliff Johnson, ex-Womblies bassist Rick Wilson, and former Pets band guitarist Tommy Gawenda. The band performed in and around Chicago, sharing manager Ken Adamany with Cheap Trick. While no studio recordings of USSA exist, a live recording from June 1982 can be found on YouTube. In 1984, Randy joined Lita Ford's band as their drummer, playing on her album Dancin' on the Edge. It was through Ford that Randy met Nikki Sixx, bassist of Motley Crue, and Tommy Lee. After touring with Ford, Randy received a call from Lee, who was at a party with Ozzy Osbourne and mentioned that Ozzy needed a new drummer. Despite initially being unable to audition due to a skiing injury, Castillo joined Osbourne's band a few months later and remained for a decade. During his tenure, he contributed to 5 albums: The Ultimate Sin in 1986, No Rest for the Wicked in 1988, the EP Just Say Ozzy in 1990, No More Tears in 1991, and the live album Live and Loud in 1993. After wrapping up the recording of Ozzy's live album in 1993, Randy embarked on a diverse musical journey. He joined the short-lived Bone Angels and then moved on to Red Square Black. In 1995, Randy briefly reunited with Ozzy Osbourne's band for a tour and also contributed to several tribute albums during this period. His drumming skills were showcased on a cover of Alice Cooper's Welcome to My Nightmare for the tribute album Welcome to the Nightmare, an all-star tribute to Alice Cooper, featuring Ronnie James Dio. Randy also played on a star-studded Def Leppard tribute album titled Leopard Mania, collaborating with musicians like John Corabi, Paul Shortino, Kevin DuBrow, Joe Lest, Janie Lane, Jerry Dixon, Eric Turner, and Tracy Guns. After Tommy Lee departed from Motley Crue in 1999, Sharon Osbourne contacted Randy about the vacant drummer position. Castillo was offered the job without needing to audition, having previously toured briefly with Vince Neil and being an old acquaintance of the band. His sole studio album with Motley Crue, New Tattoo, released in 2000, marked a return to the band's classic sound. Despite mixed fan reactions and lower than expected sales, anticipation grew for their upcoming tour alongside thrash metal icons Anthrax and Megadeth, billed as the Maximum Rock Tour. A few weeks before Motley Crue was scheduled to embark on their New Tattoo tour, Randy fell ill while performing with his mariachi project Azul at the Cat Club in Hollywood. Immediately after the show, he rushed to Cedars-Sinai Hospital where he collapsed upon admission. Doctors discovered a ruptured duodenal ulcer and performed emergency surgery, saving his life. With Randy out of action, Hole drummer Samantha Maloney filled in for the tour. During his recovery from surgery, Castillo noticed a small lump on his jaw which rapidly grew to the size of a golf ball within a month. He sought medical attention and was diagnosed with squamous cell carcinoma, a treatable form of cancer that can spread quickly if untreated. By mid-2001, the cancer was in remission. Rumors circulated that he would join Ozzy Osbourne's band for the Summer Ozfest tour, alongside Geezer Butler on bass, but these rumors were later debunked. In a tragic turn, the cancer reappeared within months, this time in a more aggressive and ultimately fatal form. Randy Castillo passed away on March 26, 2002, at the age of 51. In his final weeks, Castillo had been collaborating with Mike Inez, former bassist for Ozzy Osbourne and Alice in Chains, on a new musical project, forming a new band. He was actively seeking out a singer for the band at the time of his passing. Randy was laid to rest in the Mount Calvary Cemetery in Albuquerque, New Mexico. At the time of his passing, he was in a serious relationship with the love of his life, Christina Lorenzato, also known as Ice Christina. Numerous tributes were paid. Upon hearing the news of his passing, founding bassist Nikki Sixx from Motley Crue posted on the band's official website, "I'm sorry to inform you this way, but Randy Castillo passed away tonight. He always had a smile and positive things to say about everything and everybody. He was a great drummer. He was a great caring person and a very spiritual soul. We will miss him so much, and jam together again someday soon." Ozzy Osbourne expressed his grief to Rolling Stone saying, "I am heartbroken about the passing of one of my dearest friends. I will see you on the other side, Randy. I love you." And there you have it. Thank you for joining us in celebrating the life and legacy of Randy Castillo. His powerful rhythms and unforgettable performances continue to inspire musicians and fans alike. Though his time with us was cut short, his influence and spirit live on through his music. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories about the legends who shaped rock history. Take care and bye for now.
I can tell a good drummer from a bad drummer. I don't know exactly what Randy's style was, like from a technical point of view, but he had great feel, and he had a great sense of dynamics. And when he was playing it, he visually, had this thing going that interacted with what you were hearing, and what you were seeing was the genuine article, you know? So whatever his particular style was, it just sounded good and felt good, and it moved you. And that was the thing about Randy, because there's a lot of musicians around that I've known for a long time, or musicians that have come around, blah blah blah. The people that I really hung out with were the ones that I thought were really good. Those are the ones that seemed to be doing it for all the right reasons, because they had it in their heart and they knew what they wanted to do, and they had a passion for it. And that's one of the reasons I like Randy. Besides him being just a congenial person, he was also really fucking true to form as far as being a drummer. So that's pretty much how I remember Randy all the way through. Randy. And I used to hang out with him just to get grounded, because with Guns, there was a whole stadium rock thing that just never really sat well with me. I didn't mind doing it. I love playing in front of those kinds of crowds, but it changed the band a little bit and made Axl very complicated and this and that and the other. So I'd hang out with Randy. Anyway, eventually I ended up quitting Guns as a result of it getting to the point where it just wasn't what it was when it started. And I was in this band called Snake Pit, and it was the second record. And I was on tour, and we went and played in New Mexico, and I'd heard that Randy had been in the hospital, and he just got out. And he came to the gig. He was like one of 8 people that came to the show in New Mexico. And he was thin, but he was better. And I thought, it's great to see you. We reminisced a little bit and all that kind of stuff. And then it was just a shock later. We seen each other, and I went on to do whatever I had to do. And I was in a sort of a dark place when, after Snake Pit I fired everybody in the band. I didn't know what I was going to do with myself. I just sorted a lot of issues out, and I figured Randy was fine. I get a phone call from Matt saying that Randy had passed. He came back. What do you call it? Resurfaced the cancer had, and that he'd passed away, and it was like devastating. That was so fucking heavy because he's just one of those guys that's been hanging in there and has been always the same cat for as long as I can remember.
A new documentary will feature legendary heavy metal drummer and Albuquerque native Randy Castillo. He played with Ozzy Osbourne for years and later Motley Crue before he died of cancer. As Action 7 News anchor Royal Day shows us, the film is about Castillo's life and the most famous musicians talking about Castillo's talent.
Randy Castillo went from the West Mesa Mustang drumline to the heavy metal stage in a successful career that spanned over 4 decades. Now, the documentary. Life, Blood, Rhythm, Randy Castillo will detail every phase of his exciting life.
Randy would have been the first person I would have got if he wasn't touring around with Ozzy.
He played his drums like, you imagine the Apache Indian ancestors of his rode a horse.
He is the first rock and roll Apache drummer.
Castillo played the drums for Ozzy Osbourne and Motley Crue. KOAT spoke to him when he was in town touring with Motley Crue in 2000.
I mean, it's a dream come true. I've always wanted to do what I'm doing. I was dreaming about that when I was in West Mesa High. Just like, I want to be a rock star. So, I worked hard at it, and still working hard at it.
He's from Albuquerque, and West Mesa High has even named its Performing Arts Center after their famous graduate. He's also one of a handful of Native American musicians featured in an exhibit at the Smithsonian Museum of the American Indian. But he got sick, and his friends and family talk about it in the film.
We both literally said at the same time, we said, I don't think we're going to see him again.
I really believe in prayer, and that's when I lost my faith.
In 2002, Castillo was putting together a new band when he died of cancer. He was 51 years old. The film is a tribute to his life, a final performance for a native New Mexican who some say not only was a force of nature as a drummer, but as a human being. Royal Day, KOAT, Action 7 News.
The film is narrated by Lita Ford and has been selected to open the Red Nation Film Festival in Beverly Hills November 4th. For a link to the trailer, go to KOAT.com.
We're seeing a big drop in drug overdoses in New Mexico, but the fight's not over.
I want to be a rock star,
I have few regrets in life, and one of them, however, is that I never got to play with Randy.
He is the first rock and roll Apache drummer that was successful, the first one ever to make it in rock and roll.
Nicest guy in the world.
His clinics were geared toward the kid. He wanted them to believe that just because they're from Albuquerque, and just because they're Hispanic, or just because they're not the typical, rock star persona, that they could do that.
Randy would have been the first person I would have got if he wasn't touring around with Ozzy,
I'm going to show you some of my stuff.
You know, all the stuff about Randy being a great guy and a great drummer and all that kind of stuff, I don't know if it sheds enough light on everything that he went through when he got sick.
And I've got cancer.
It was horrible. It's, you know, my friend was this guy who was larger than life. He was absolutely fearless and indestructible. It just started fading away right in front of you.
I never thought you could, you could kick Randy down, man. Just didn't seem like the kind of guy I was gonna go ever.
It was a really good documentary. I mean, I recommend it.
But I know one thing, he would want me to keep playing drums even after my accident, and that's the reason why I stick with it, is because of him.
The documentary was amazing. It was true to life. It made me feel tonight that he was actually playing tonight. It was amazing.
Just big round of applause for the city and taking care of this theater.
Keep it right here. That's coming up next on Coyote 102.5.
We might even give away a pair of tickets to tonight's sold-out show.
It's the last pair we have. We're going to do that before 10 o'clock this morning. This is the only place you can get them because people in Albuquerque love Randy Castillo. That's why both events are sold out. It's Motley Crue, Coyote 102.5.
And the person that Randy was is represented in the fact that Phil, Carmine, all these folks who are coming in from around the world to celebrate his life, to be here in his hometown for the premiere of the documentary about the guy that he was. It speaks volumes about him. It also, the reaction we've had from Coyote 102.5 listeners and the response and just the fever that is going around this city right now in preparation for this movie. People love your brother in the city, and with good reason. And it's going to be an exciting time tonight as it premieres at the Chemo at 7 o'clock.
This is going to be an amazing event. We're going to be back talking about the lifeblood and rhythm of Randy Castillo and the Albuquerque premiere of that documentary tonight at the Chemo.
From the dusty clubs of Albuquerque to the thunderous roar of stadium crowds, Randy Castillo's life was a rock and roll odyssey. Inspired by the Beatles, he blazed a trail through the music world, his powerful drumming propelling the careers of rock legends like Ozzy Osbourne and Motley Crue. He conquered the heights of fame, only to face the depths of personal tragedy. Though his life was tragically cut short, his rhythm echoes on, a testament to the enduring power of his talent and a poignant reminder of the fragility of life itself. Randy Castillo's story is a powerful symphony of passion, perseverance, and the enduring magic of rock and roll. Today on Celebrity Afterlife, we remember him and help to keep his memory alive. Born on December 18, 1950, Randy entered the world amidst a rich tapestry of heritage. The son of a Spanish, French, Native American mother, Margaret, and a Native American Hispanic father, Frank. Kiko. Growing up surrounded by the melodies of his four musical sisters, Frances, Marilyn, Phyllis, and Christine, it's no wonder that music became his calling. His first foray into the world of organized sound began at West Mesa High School in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where he contributed his talents to the jazz band, orchestra, and marching band. So profound was his impact that he composed the high school cadence, a rhythmic legacy that echoes through the school's halls to this day. The trumpet, though briefly embraced, couldn't hold his burgeoning musical passion. Then, a seismic shift occurred. Early February 1964. The Ed Sullivan Show. The Beatles. Their electrifying performance ignited a fire within him, a yearning for the rhythmic thunder of a drum kit. He knew with absolute certainty that this was his path. But his father, wary of fleeting fancies after the trumpet's brief reign, remained unmoved. A drum kit, he reasoned, would suffer the same fate. Another instrument abandoned in the dustbin of youthful whims. In the crucible of Albuquerque's music scene, Randy's rock and roll journey began with the Wombleys, a hard rock cover band that pulsed with raw energy. Their sound echoed through the clubs of Albuquerque before they migrated to the mile-high city of Denver. But like so many bands before them, their time together eventually came to an end in 1980, paving the way for Randy's next chapter. Driven by the pursuit of rock and roll stardom, Castillo ventured to Los Angeles the following year, a city where dreams are made and broken. He shared a roof with future Rick Springfield guitarist Tim Pierce, soaking in the vibrant music scene. His journey led him to brief stints with the Motels and U.S.A., an all-star collective featuring ex-Cheap Trick bassist Pete Cometa and former Montrose vocalist Bob James. Though these ventures proved fleeting, they were crucial steps on Castillo's path, each one bringing him closer to his ultimate destiny. In 1984, Castillo landed the drumming gig for Lita Ford, his powerful rhythms pulsing through her Dancing on the Edge album. It was Ford who then unknowingly set the stage for his next act, introducing Castillo to her boyfriend, Motley Crue bassist Nikki Sixx, and Sixx's bandmate, Tommy Lee. The phone call came soon after the Dancing on the Edge tour, a late-night summons from Lee at a party with Ozzy Osbourne. Ozzy, it turned out, was searching for a new drummer, and Lee knew just the man for the job. A broken leg, the result of a skiing mishap, threatened to derail Castillo's big opportunity. Unable to audition immediately, fate seemed to be testing his resolve. Yet, a few months later, the call came. Ozzy Osbourne had chosen him. Castillo's decade-long tenure with the Ozzy Osbourne Band cemented his place in rock history, his thunderous drumming driving 5 albums. The Ultimate Sin, 1986. No Rest for the Wicked, 1988. Just Say Ozzy, 1990. No More Tears, 1991. And the electrifying double-disc live album, Live and Loud, 1993. Following the release of Ozzy's live album in 1993, Castillo's musical journey took a few intriguing turns. He briefly explored the sonic landscapes of Bone Angels and Red Square Black. A reunion with Osbourne in 1995 for a tour proved the enduring bond of their musical partnership. During this prolific period, Castillo also lent his drumming prowess to several tribute albums. He laid down the powerful rhythms for Ronnie James Dio's rendition of Alice Cooper's Welcome to My Nightmare. On the Welcome to the Nightmare, an all-star salute to Alice Cooper album. And he masterfully handled all drumming duties on the star-studded Def Leppard tribute Leopardmania. Leopardmania wasn't just a tribute album. It was a sonic explosion of rock royalty. Imagine a constellation of stars aligning. John Corabi, of Angora, The Scream and Motley Crue. Paul Shortino, of Rough Cut and Quiet Riot. Kevin Dubrow, of Quiet Riot, Joe Lest of Bang Tango, and Janny Lane, of Warrant. All lending their voices to the project. And anchoring this powerhouse lineup were the guitar and bass talents of Jerry Dixon and Eric Turner, of Warrant, alongside the legendary Tracy Guns of L.A. Guns. It was a collaboration of epic proportions, a testament to the enduring power of rock and roll. In 1999, the ever-shifting sands of rock and roll fate shifted once more. With Tommy Lee's departure from Motley Crue, Sharon Osbourne extended an invitation to Castillo, a suggestion that required no audition. Castillo, a longtime friend of the band and a former touring drummer for Vince Neil, stepped into the fold. His sole studio offering with the Crue, 2000's New Tattoo, marked a return to their signature sound. Yet fan reaction proved divided, and the album fell short of expectations. Despite this, a resurgence of interest in 80s hard rock acts fueled anticipation for the upcoming Maximum Rock tour, a powerhouse lineup featuring thrash metal titans Anthrax and Megadeth alongside Motley Crue. Just weeks before Motley Crue was poised to unleash New Tattoo on the Maximum Rock tour, alongside Megadeth and Anthrax, fate intervened with a dramatic twist. While performing with his mariachi side project, Arthur, at the Cat Club in Hollywood, Castillo fell ill. Immediately after the show, he hailed a cab to nearby Cedars-Sinai Hospital, collapsing as he was being admitted. Doctors quickly discovered a ruptured duodenal ulcer, a life-threatening condition that demanded immediate action. Emergency surgery saved Castillo's life, but his rock and roll journey was about to take an unexpected detour.
It ate a hole through the lining of my stomach, and once it opened up, all that acid in the tummy just pours into your lower intestines and wreaks havoc,
he stated at the time. With Castillo sidelined, the thunderous beat of Motley Crue's drums was temporarily entrusted to Hole's Samantha Maloney for the tour. While recuperating from his surgery in October 2000, Castillo faced a new, chilling challenge. A small lump on his jaw, initially dismissed, grew with alarming speed, reaching the size of a golf ball within a month. He sought medical attention and received a devastating diagnosis of squamous cell carcinoma. This common form of cancer, though often treatable if caught early, carries a dangerous potential for rapid spread if left unchecked, casting a shadow of uncertainty over Castillo's future.
There's nothing like the wave of emotion that hits you when you get told you have cancer. Nothing can prepare you for the doom you feel inside upon hearing those words.
Castillo said after undergoing surgery to remove a lump the size of a lime from under his right jawline.
I am currently getting radiation every day 5 days a week, and chemotherapy once every 3 weeks for 6 months. Cancer is a bitch,
he said after learning of his diagnosis. A fragile hope flickered in mid-2001 as Castillo's cancer went into remission. Rumors swirled that he would rejoin Ozzy Osbourne's solo band for that summer's Ozfest tour, a dream reunion that would also feature Geezer Butler on bass. But like whispers in the wind, these hopes soon faded, revealing the rumors to be nothing more than wishful thinking. The reprieve was tragically short-lived. Within months, cancer's cruel hand dealt a devastating blow, returning with renewed ferocity. Just months after seeking medical attention, Randy Castillo succumbed to the disease on March 26, 2002, at the age of 51. Even in his final weeks, his passion for music burned bright. Castillo had been collaborating with former Ozzy Osbourne and Alice in Chains bassist Mike Inez, laying the foundation for a new band and searching for the perfect voice to complete their sound. A testament to his enduring creative spirit even in the face of insurmountable odds. I am heartbroken about the passing of one of my dearest friends, Osbourne told Rolling Stone. I will see you on the other side, Randy. I love you. He always had a smile and positive things to say about everything and everybody, Nikki Sixx added. He was a great drummer, a great caring person, and a very spiritual soul. At just 51 years old, Randy Castillo's untimely death extinguished a musical flame that should have burned for decades. His legacy, though tragically curtailed, stands as a testament to the raw talent that kept him a sought-after drummer for so many years. Director Win Ponder sought to capture this vibrant spirit in his acclaimed documentary, The Life, Blood and Rhythm of Randy Castillo, featuring narration by Lita Ford, a film that has resonated with audiences at festivals. Perhaps even more importantly, Castillo's story serves a poignant and urgent reminder of the vital importance of preventative care, a message that echoes far beyond the realm of rock and roll. Before his passing, Randy was quoted in an article stating,
I just want anybody out there to know that if you ever have the slightest inkling of a symptom, whether it be a lump or a sore anywhere on your body, or anything that looks or feels suspicious, go get it checked out fast.
Castillo told Metal Sludge.
With cancer, time is of the essence. You could save yourself and all who care about you a shitload of grief by catching it early.
Randy Castillo is laid to rest at Mount Calvary Cemetery in Albuquerque, New Mexico, in Mount Calvary Chapel Mausoleum, row 101, tier F. Thanks so much for tuning into today's video. I post new videos every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. So be sure to like, subscribe, and click the bell to catch every episode where we dive into the celebrity afterlife.
Esse cara aqui foi o baterista mais selvagem que Ozzy já teve. Randy Castillo, tribal, explosivo, carismático. Ele tocou com Ozzy nos discos The Ultimate Sin, No Rest for the Wicked e no clássico No More Tears. No palco era uma máquina, nos bastidores um dos mais leais. Mas poucos sabem. Randy morreu em 2002, aos 51 anos, vítima de câncer. Um verdadeiro guerreiro do metal, que deu tudo pela música e morreu fazendo o que amava. E você, lembra do Randy? Comenta aí.
This all began, at least for me in these days, very young. 9, 10, 11 years old. Started on the piano and then eventually just became enthralled with drums because the piano lessons were in a drum store. That's how I met Nick Lucchetti, who was also Randy's drum teacher. So primarily, that was how I first was bumping into Randy most of the time, was at this drum store. And he was very charismatic, just full of life, very rock and roll dude. Captured my attention big time, you know, being that young. And so I'm full on, I'm in, right? He had this sparkle in his eye, this kind of just devil-may-care, spontaneous, just lust for life. You would get the impression that anything could happen, and probably would happen if you're hanging out with Randy tonight. You know what I mean? And I had experienced that when I was like 13, 14 years old. I was getting into trouble, man. I mean, I didn't even know what trouble was. He was showing it to me, right? When I first came out here, it was about the same year that Randy did. He came out earlier in the year. I came out later in the year. I had just turned 20 years old, and we used to hang out a lot. We'd go see the fireworks in Santa Monica Beach, you know, and just things like that. And we'd talk about this New Mexico thing because we both really were proud of coming from New Mexico. It was, we felt, a really rich, artistic, you know, kind of influence for both of us, especially being drummers, because we had this, the drums are a very earthy instrument. They're tied to our heartbeats, right? You know? He's like my big brother, you know, in so many different ways, you know. I was in denial on the whole thing. It's basically, ain't gonna happen. Ain't gonna happen. Can't happen. Not in the plan. Not in the cards. This ain't gonna happen. It's all gonna get figured out. It's all gonna be okay. When I saw him lay to rest, and his hands, they were still for the first time I've ever seen. That's when it hit me what was happening. You know, I had really denied it all the way up to that point, and that was it. That was it. So, you know, Randy's gone. Yeah.
Should I keep the tempo the same at that?
I thought that was great.
I don't see any reason to do it again then.
I play a couple of these for Randy tonight. He's always here with us.